Well, good afternoon, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well. Week 522, something like that. I don't know. It's a miserable day here, so it's cold, wet, and raining. What I'd like to do today, actually, is talk a bit about books and literature, and really just talk about what my three favourite books are. And these have kind of remained constant over the years. Now, I was always a strange child. I've always loved reading books. These days, I mean, I still read a lot, but mostly it's factual books. It's history books or books about movies. Not a lot of literature, and I'm trying to remedy that during the lockdown, really. But my three favourite literature books have kind of remained the same over the years. Now, I remember at school, English literature was my favourite subject, and I say I was a strange child because I remember when I was 11 years old, I was coming up to the summer holidays in July, and we had 6 weeks off. And our English literature teacher told us, when you come back in September, the new term, you're going to be reading The Mayor of Casterbridge by Thomas Hardy. And so for your homework for the summer, I want you to read the first two chapters. Well, I read the entire book. I was engrossed by the characters and the story and the twists and the turns, and absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. So, my three favourite pieces of literature. So, number three would be Les Miserables by the French writer Victor Hugo. Now, it was a toss up between that and his other book because I like his writing style. And the other book, of course, is Notre Dame de Paris. And the English, you probably know it better by the English title, which is The Hunchback of Notre Dame. But I prefer the French title, Notre Dame de Paris, because that story is actually about the building, the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris. And Quasimodo, the Hunchback, is just one of the many characters associated with the story and with the cathedral. But I plumbed for Les Miserables, and it's a very, very big book. It's a very long book. And Victor Hugo does have a tendency to ramble quite a lot, much like myself, I have to say. And I mean, there's a whole section of that book which is just about the Battle of Waterloo and the aftermath of the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. But it doesn't really have anything to do with the plot at all. But it goes on for pages after page after page. So he does have a tendency to ramble, but stick with it. And some wonderful characters in there: Jean Valjean, Javert, the policeman, the Thénardiers, who are probably my favourite characters in the whole novel, and they keep coming in and out of the story. And it's a very complex story. It's a huge, huge story. I read it when I was on holiday. First time I ever went to Italy for holiday in the south of Italy. I remember sitting around a swimming pool reading it, and I was engrossed. My then girlfriend wasn't very happy because she wanted to go off down to the beach, but I remember coming to the end of that and actually crying real tears. I was so moved by the conclusion to the story. And I think any piece of art, whether it's artwork or literature or movies, if it moves, if it makes some kind of emotion in you, I think that's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. So that would be my number three book. Now, my number two book is this one here. This is my original copy back from the 1980s, one of the few books I've held on to over the years. And it's Watership Down by Richard Adams. The cover here shows the Black Rabbit of Inlay. And it was the poster used for the movie version that they made, the animated movie. Now, I always remember my sister one summer, saying to me, "Could you look after the kids for the afternoon?" I said, "Yeah, no problem." I thought, what can I do? I'll take them to the cinema. There's a cartoon film on. So we went to see Watership Down. Now, if you've ever seen the animated version, I do highly recommend it. It's brutal. It's horrific, bloody, gory. There's rabbits in snares. Blackover gets his throat ripped out. And the main villain of the piece, General Woundwort, is terrifying, absolutely terrifying. After I turned my sister's children to her, she said, "I'm never going to ask you to look after my children again. They are absolutely traumatized now." But it's a brilliant book, and it's one of those books that can be read on two levels, a bit like Swift's Gulliver's Travels or Orwell's Animal Farm. They can be read on one level as a children's story, this one being about rabbits and their quest to find a new home at Watership Down, which is a real place that I've been to. It's in Berkshire. But on another level, it's about humans and their interactions and their emotions and everything. It is quite violent in places, but it's absolutely wonderful story and great characters. I had pet rabbits as a child when we were growing up, and I did name one of them Bigwig after one of the main characters. Now, this book, there's a scene in this book right near the end where General Woundwort and the rabbits are trying to break into the burrows in Watership Down. And Bigwig is being set to defend the Warren, and he launches an attack on General Woundwort, and it's a very bloody, violent attack. But there's some dialogue there, which I won't tell you what it is because I'd like you to read it. But when I read that the first time, it literally made the hairs on my arm stand up, and just one of those things that just makes you go, oh. So amazing book. I mean, Richard Adams wrote other books. Plague Dogs is another very good book, which was also made into an animated movie, and that's about two dogs which escape from a vivisection laboratory in the Lake District. And again, that's quite powerful. It's quite bloody and it's quite traumatic as well. Shardik is a strange one of his. It's about a prehistoric tribe who worship a giant bear. But it's definitely worth reading. I got to meet Richard Adams. I was very lucky. Many years ago, both him and myself, we were speakers at Trafalgar Square at a big demonstration, a big rally against the Newfoundland seal hunts. Every March in Newfoundland, where they used to kill the baby seals for their fur, and both of us were speakers there. So I was delighted to meet him because this is the author of one of my all-time favourite books. You know what they say about never meet your heroes? Well, I was devastated because I got chatting to him and I said, oh, Watership Down is one of my favourite books. Blah, blah, blah. And he said, oh, yeah, rabbits. He said, you know what, though? Like, if I saw a rabbit in my garden eating my lettuce, I'd blow its bloody head off with a shotgun. So that kind of, isn't what I really wanted to hear from the author of Watership Down. But anyway, that's my second favourite book. Now, my all-time favourite, and I must have read this book 18 times, at least 18 times, is of course Bram Stoker's Dracula. And this is a wonderful version here that I have. I've owned many versions over the years, and this is a annotated version. It's got you can see, but it's got lots of illustrations in it as well, and lots of notes. And I've loved this book ever since I was a child, about 11 years old the first time I read it. And Stoker does it in a very interesting way. So it's made up of journals and letters and telegrams and phonograph recordings. I often think they could do a modern version using Instagram and Facebook and emails and text messages and this kind of thing. And what's good about that is that you as the reader see the whole overall picture. You know what's going on before the characters in the story do, because it takes them a long time to put everything together again. I mean, Dracula's been filmed so many times, and people always complain, oh, why haven't they ever done a faithful version of Bram Stoker's novel? Well, I don't think they actually could, because the thing is huge. I mean, and it would go on for hours and hours, and everyone just has a different interpretation of it, I guess. But I love this book so much. And Dracula only appears in about a third of the book. He's in the opening chapters where Jonathan Harker travels to Transylvania. And then when Dracula boards the ship the Demeter and heads over to Whitby in North Yorkshire. But then he pretty much disappears from the book. He pops up a couple of times, and you don't really see him till the end, till the finale. And that's what I mean about we really know what... As readers, we know what's going on. We can piece everything together, but the characters themselves takes them a long time to figure out what's going on. Now, I was lucky growing up in the northeast of England. My parents used to take me to the seaside town of Whitby in North Yorkshire all the time, and it is my favourite place in the whole world, I have to say. And it's pretty much unchanged all the time, all the years I've been going there, and pretty much unchanged since the time that Bram Stoker stayed there as well. And as I say, the whole portion of the novel takes place in Whitby. Dracula first comes ashore at Tate Hill Pier. Comes ashore in the form of a wolf. He runs up the 199 steps to the ruins of Whitby Abbey. It's where he first bites Lucy Westerner on the East Cliff, and you can still see the churchyard there, St Mary's Churchyard, with the gravestones and everything. And last summer, actually, I did a tour. I did a tour with Americans from New York, American school group. It was myself and my friend Kelly. The tour turned out to be absolutely horrendous. The tour from hell, but for whole different reasons. But one of the components on the tour is there was an interest in Dracula because the students were reading Stoker's novel. So we went to Whitby, which I was delighted. Wasn't quite as delighted that I arrived in Whitby and it was a bank holiday weekend and I had 90 people to navigate the narrow streets there. But I assembled everybody on the West Cliff. You see, you had a great view down into the harbour and to Tate Hill Pier, a view up the 199 steps to the ruins of Whitby Abbey. You could see St Mary's Church there. And we were just outside one of the hotels that Bram Stoker stayed in because he spent some time in Whitby, and which is why a whole section of the book is based there. And he did a lot of research in Whitby Library as well, and about Transylvania, and which literally means the land beyond the forests. And it's there he discovered a real life ruler of that area, Wallachia, called Vlad Tepes, who's often called Dracula. Dracula just means the son of the dragon or son of the devil. And so, yeah, I was delighted to have 90 New Yorkers there telling them about Dracula. And so, because they were studying it. But one of the students said to me, well, why are we here? I said, oh, well, because this is Whitby. This is where Dracula first comes ashore in the novel. And he was like, who? I said, Dracula. Who's Dracula? I said, Dracula, the book that you're reading. I don't know anything about that. What's that then? Sometimes you have to despair, really. But yeah, I must have read it 18 times, and from the age of 11. I remember when I was a teenager, my mum was very, very devout Catholic, and so every Sunday, me and my sisters had to go to Mass. So there was a 9 o'clock Mass, 11 o'clock, and then 7 in the evening. I remember when I got a bit older, because who wants to get up for 9 o'clock on a Sunday? When I got a bit older, I somehow persuaded my mum that it's okay, I would go to the 7 o'clock Mass on my own. But what I actually did that summer is I would go to a local park and sit in the sun and read Dracula. So it's remained my all-time favourite book, and I might even be tempted to start reading it again during the lockdown, because it is a very, very wonderful book. So that's my three favourite books. I mean, there was other ones I could have chosen. I Am Legend by Richard Matheson is another big favourite of mine. But I think these are the ones which endure for me and mean a lot to me. So I'd be very interested to know in the comments below what you don't just have to be three favourites, but what your favourite book or pieces of literature are. And anyway, have a great day, look after yourselves, and we'll talk again soon. Bye bye.